Okay, good people of YouTube, subscribers and otherwise, and how I even got one subscriber is beyond me. Starlin, hi Starlin, I hope you're out there, I hope you're all right, and but Starlin's like me, I mean, she's as good a teacher as I'll ever be, but the fact that I even have subscribers just is wild, and I'm sorry I haven't put up much content. I don't know. I've been buried in books, and I've been buried in books. Now it just seems like forever. One thing I do want to get out of the way. For some reason, this troubles people. That on all my videos, I'm wearing paint clothes. Well, look out! I have a real estate concern, and for a living, we put houses on market. We take ugly houses, we pretty them up, we fix everything that's in the house, and we put them on market. And I work for a lot of real estate agents and companies around here. And I don't come to you with the fancy preacher clothes. Where's the preacher clothes? Let me see. Maybe this will make you feel better than when my baby was born, huh? Look at that little Winston Churchill. And does it make people feel better if I'm wearing my collar? I get some comments that just I don't, I guess, people people get their mind set, and they're told that a particular profession or a particular person has to fit this mold, or they're not what they say they are. Okay, I went to Methodist seminary in 2003, and I had always been kind of a Bible nut, and because when I don't understand something and it bothers me, I read and I read and I read and I study and I research and I read and I study. And when I was having some problems with a friend who belonged to one of the big churches, and without giving away too much information, because my daughter may see this video someday. And so I'll reserve some of the circumstances that led me to it, but I had a falling out with somebody who began, after the falling out, began beating me in the head with the Bible. Okay, explaining to me why I was going to go to hell and why I was going to make her go to hell, and then her family joined in, and it was a whole beat down, dog pile on Sean. Okay, because of what I was doing. So I was quite troubled about this, because I knew that you're not supposed to take the Bible and beat people up with it. That's not why God gave us His Word. All right, there's something inherently wrong with that. All right, when somebody starts berating you and telling you how you're a sinner and how you're making God mad, you might want to question, the person who's treating you that way. Now, I went to a Methodist seminary when I broke my shoulder. I've always been a commercial painter. Right out of high school, there was a big paint company not even a mile away from where I lived. And one summer I got a job there when I was, I think, 18. And I just, once I started working there, I never stopped. I was at that same company, painting in Colonial Williamsburg and Colonial Yorktown in Virginia. And it was such a neat job. And plus I was always in rock bands and blues bands, and it just sort of fit my lifestyle. Now, I come from a learned family. My father owned radio stations and a communications company, and my sister is now still currently a school teacher, a public school teacher in Indiana, in the Fort Wayne area. And I just turned out to be a scummy old painter, I guess. But when I broke my shoulder, they told me when I broke my shoulder, they told me that I wouldn't be able to paint anymore. And I didn't know anything else besides the Bible. And certainly playing guitar and singing in bands is not going to pay the bills by any means. So I figured the best thing for me to do would be to be a preacher. So I went to seminary. And man, I got tangled up in seminary, and what a joke. I mean, and I don't mean to offend anybody who's been to seminary. And if you're part of one of these major churches, I don't want to question your character. And what God has you doing for Him is that's you. Okay, I'm only talking about me. All right, your old pal, Reverend Sean Murphy. Right. Okay, so when I got into seminary, there was so much. It's a money making scam almost. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. If I did try to explain it, this would be a 2-hour video. But let me just tell you that the government of the church I was trying to be a preacher for, um, I have to wonder if they even believed in God. Belief in God for me, I don't have any problems believing in God. I guarantee you, God is real. Faith is not a problem for me. But some of the people I ran into and some of the guidelines that they set, particularly, I don't know how it is for the other churches, but I would imagine it's all the same. Uh, don't teach past a fifth grade reading level. Don't venture into the book of Revelation. Don't venture into the book of Jude. Try and stay away from the Old Testament as much as possible. Honestly, it was an operation to fish money out of people's pockets, starting with me, because seminary cost a pretty penny. All the books you have to buy, all the junk, the whole thing was a joke. So when I made it through it, and it was time for me to be ordained by the Methodist Church, the creed, the oath that you have to take to the church, I couldn't do it. Or I couldn't do it. Like I said, I know there is a God. And I know that He wouldn't want me to have any parts of what I perceived as going on, okay? So, and by the time I'd got through all that anyways, my shoulder was getting better. There was a time when I couldn't lift it over my head, but little by little, I started getting better and better. I'd like to think that God just wanted me to make my money honest, right? Out of the sweat of my brow, right? Out of my good business sense. And He knew I didn't want any part of that big church scenario. And so I'd like to think that He helped heal me and prove the doctors wrong, that I could in fact use my shoulder and I could in fact continue on with my trade. All right. But just to make, for whatever reason, I felt it was necessary to be ordained and to have credentials of ministry. So I went to Trinity. I went to the Trinity Evangelical Christian Ministries in Alabama. And I went through that course, and just a 90-day course. And I wrote my papers, and I did all the things I was supposed to do. And if it makes anybody feel better, all right, this might make you feel better. All right, Reverend Sean Murphy. Okay, you can pause that if you want. Credentials of ministry. All right. So, if it helps you to believe anything I say, or at least pursue some of the topics I cover on your own, then just know I'm not just some bum painter out there talking to you. I've been studying this stuff most of my adult life, and I've been teaching the Bible longer than I can remember. Okay, and as such, as a student of the text, I can tell you that it's a never-ending search. You are constantly learning new things. It does. If I lived to be 200, I still would never get to the bottom of the scriptures and the depth and the love and the caring that God put into every single page. Okay, and so. As it is, the reason I'm making this video today, I'm already almost at 10 minutes, so I'll try and make this quick. And plus, I wanted something for my mom to hang on the wall, okay? Everybody in my family did good. Sean turned out to be a commercial painter. What's the story with that? Me and my guitars, right? Okay, so I ran into some legal issues here in Georgia, and don't get me started on Georgia. I was born in New York. I'm a New Yorker by way of, I'm a Virginian by way of New York, and I grew up most of my life in colonial Virginia, and I ended up in Georgia because of the Air Force, because my wife's family, my wife is Air Force people, and so I pulled up and we moved to Georgia because my wife wanted to be close to her family. You got to keep the missus happy if you're going to be happy, right? All right. So I started working for real estate people here, and I've done all right. Everything's okay, and God always looks out for me because I work for Him, and He makes way. I'm by no means rich, and all these guitars you see behind me are all cheap Asian guitars. Okay, so they look good because I know how to pick out a good guitar, and it doesn't matter where it was made, right? So anyhow, after running into a little bit of legal stuff, I started looking into legalities and just exactly how the judicial system works nowadays, okay? And I found out some pretty stunning things. And so the past months, I don't know how many months, probably almost a year now, I've had my nose buried in books. And these are books I want you to know about because it turns out America started where we were all sovereign, born of the soil, sovereign individuals, and we set up a government that was there to serve us. We the people, by the people, for the people. We gave mandates to the government, put a road on Main Street, put a red light there. Everybody collectively have decided that this is a good place for a red light because people who are traveling in their cars may not see what's going on. They might smash into each other. We allocate the money for that, and the government executes it. We hired them. They're our employees. It's their job. Now, somewhere, likely 1871, without anybody knowing about it, this country incorporated. Okay? And without telling anybody, they have subverted our Constitution, which we gave to the government to tell the government what they may and may not do. They have subverted that, and they have turned this country and the system that it works on into a corporation. They incorporated in 1871, and they went bankrupt in 1933. Okay, that's when they absconded everybody's gold and everybody's silver. And now we no longer even have any money. This is a bankrupt company, and we work on a fiat dollar, okay? There is no gold to back up. The only reason a $20 bill works or a dollar bill works is because I've got a dollar, you and I have decided this is a dollar, and as long as we both agree, then we can use it as an instrument of trade, okay? But what has happened is when you're born, they have turned you, without the knowledge of your parents, they have turned you into a trust. They have turned you into a little miniature trust. All right, and they borrow off of the name that they have given you. They give you a name. Your parents give you a Christian name. I, for instance, my proper Christian name is Sean Robert. I am from the Murphy and the Sliker family. Okay? Now what they've done is taken Dog Latin, which is Latin for illiterate people. It's Latin that's been turned, it's been transliterated into the English speaking system, and they make all their documents in this Latin, and they also use American Sign Language. They use sign language, and they make you into a trust, and they feed off of you for the rest of your life. You pay, you were born a creditor, but they have stolen your sovereignty. They have stolen your natural mineral wealth that is part of the land that you own, that you were born on, and they steal your energy and the money that, or the wealth that comes from the energy you expend, and they've turned you into a debtor. Okay, now you say, how have I come across all this, right? Let me just show you a few books and just a few things that I've been studying. And I'll wrap this up. But there are some things. First off, in school, they don't teach you grammar, all right? And we are tacitly their slaves because they make up all these forms and they speak to us in a language, and you can find out about this language using this book, the Chicago Manual of Style. They tell you the different types of writing and things like that so that you can decipher the jargon and the mumbo jumbo that they send you in their government documents. Now, when you sign a government document, you're giving them permission to use you as a slave. So in essence, it's ignorance of the law. And you know how they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, they make up all these bizarre laws and they speak a whole different language than we speak, and you can find that out using a Black's Law Dictionary. This one just happens to be the 6th edition, and as time goes on and as they realize we're getting smarter and we're connecting the dots on these things, they're starting to change. So the later the edition, the more they will have changed to suit what they're doing, because they're all criminals. All right? And so you need these to understand what's going on when they give you these documents that are written to you, only they're not written to you. They're written to the name that they've made out of you, the trust that they've turned you into. Okay? I see it online sometimes, a straw man and just all kinds of jargon like this. And what it is you're dead. You're dead. They're feeding off the trust of the dead. Now, I'm going to tell you how this incorporates with the Bible. Otherwise, I wouldn't even delve into it. But there's one more book that I think everybody would just absolutely be fascinated to read. And I was quite lucky to get a hold of this. Now, it's expensive, and it's flimsy, and you don't get much for it. And the hard copy is crazy money. But if you get a chance, read Legal Fictions. Okay, by Lon Fuller. This explains to you what this Babylonian government has done. Okay, and now I could get into this. I'll tell you, there's a great YouTube video, guys out there from Australia who have really done their homework on this. And if you really want to get into this kind of stuff, then you should go to, and I'll try to remember to put this in the memo, the link to it. There's a great couple of guys in Australia, and they have a video channel called the Justinian Deception. And these guys will explain it to you. They'll explain the whole thing, okay? Because it's really an in-depth study that I'm not prepared. I'm still studying it myself, and it's almost been a year, okay? And I've also come to a conclusion that, even if 1 million people out of 350 or 60 million that we have in this country, even if 1 million of us figured this out, it wouldn't matter anyways, because they have all the guns and they have all the jail cells. And so really, even after learning all this stuff, there's only one thing that I've pulled out of this, and I want to tell you what it is. When you're born, this is what God gave you when you're born. And excuse the nerd glasses, but I'm blind now. I can't see anything. But let's go to Genesis chapter 1. And I want to tell you what happens when the soil produces your body and God puts your soul into your body, okay? Now we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1. And we're going to go to the 6th day, which is when all the people of all the world were created. This is before Noah. Not Noah. This is before Adam and Eve were ever created. This is when God first created mankind. Okay, all the different races or whatever you want, all the different types of people. He created them all, and this is the first law that's ever covered in the Bible. God said, "Let us make man in our image." This is verse 26 of chapter 1. Let us make man in our image after our likeness. Okay, you look now the same way you look when you were in heaven before God placed your soul into this flesh body that's produced by the land. All right? And that's what that means. And if you don't believe me, you need to study the Bible. You need to get a good Strong's Concordance. You need to get a good companion Bible by Bullinger. and you need a good old King James for English-speaking people, okay? Because all the other translations aren't worth the time of day. Okay, this is accurate. This is as accurate as you're going to get in English. And the Strong's Concordance will bring all of this back to the original languages that it was originally written in. All right, in case you have any misunderstandings. So this time, without interruption, I'm just going to read the verse. 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. 27. So God created man in his own image, in your own image. You look like you've always looked. Okay, not in God's image. I mean, certainly like God's image, but what he's saying here is he made you look just like you've always looked, okay? And that's the way he made you, and that's the way he loved you. So God created man in his own image, and in the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Okay? So when you're born, God made you a master over this earth. He gave you dominion. And notice here that he didn't give dominion of a person over a person. Okay? Nobody, in common law, unless you hurt somebody or damage their property, nobody has jurisdiction over you. You're not held to codes and statutes unless they're codes and statutes that are in this book. You're a child of the living God. God gave you dominion over this earth, and he expects you to do well in it and to use your thinking cap, okay? So what happens? What happens is you get subverted. And when you read in Genesis 2 and 3, or specifically 3, where the serpent is Satan himself, okay? The knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is Satan's body, the limbs, the trunk. You understand? He tricked them just the way we're being tricked now, okay? And he got Adam and Eve essentially booted out of the Garden of Eden. And this, in a sense, is still us, booted out of the Garden of Eden. Not for everybody. Now, hold on. I'm not saying we're stuck here and there's nothing we can do about it. But this is what struck me as I've been learning all this stuff about law and what the governments, not just ours, but what all the governments have done to the populations. Okay? We've been dragged into this Babylonian world of the dead. And they use commercial codes and they use maritime law of the sea, the water, the sea. All right? They use this against us. And common law has gone out the window. We no longer have common law. We can no longer, when you step into a court, you're stepping into one of their maritime courts because you're on their citizenship. You understand? You've gone from a sovereign American born of the soil, and they've assigned you a number and made you into a trust, and you're now a citizen on their ship. That's why there are banks. Banks hold in the sea, all right? The currency, all right? The banks hold in the currency. We don't have money anymore. We have fiat currency. I mean, it goes on. And like I said, go to Justinian Deception and also go to High Frequency Radio, which is another great thing. I'll put a link in the video, okay? But this reminded me of Genesis chapter 3, verse 22, which is funny to me because if you look up the Skull and Bones Club, not everybody knows what that is, but Yale University has a club called Skull and Bones. And their emblem is the like the Jolly Roger, the skull and the crossbones. And underneath it says 322. And people think that's March 22nd or it's some special date or something. It's nothing like that. Listen to 3, verse 22. All right? And the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. And then there's a colon right there. And then the rest of the Bible comes after that colon. And it tells you the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs that you're going to have to deal with if you don't get back to the dominion and the sovereignty that you were born under as a child of the living God. Okay? It's all about God's word. That's why he sent it to us. Okay? And again, it's like I said, I don't know that there's a remedy. I mean, because how are you going to live in this world? If you don't have a driver's license, cops are going to beat you up on the side of the road while you try to teach them law and Bible. They're not going to listen to that crap. They're going to beat you up, tow your car, and throw you in jail. They've got all the guns. They've got all the supposed power. You'd have to live a pretty meager life and a pretty simple life if you had to give up your identification, everything, you know? But you're holding a birth certificate that is really in the name of a trust of a dead entity. And they feed off of that. They constantly feed off of that and make you a debtor when you are born under God as a creditor. All right? So maybe a lot of people, you know, who don't know about this will try to do what I'm currently trying to do right now. I'm putting forth my hand and I'm taking of the tree of life. I'm going to eat and live forever. I'm not going to have any part of Satan's one world system, his beast system, his Babylonian law, his Justinian law. And you don't have to either. Now, you might take some lumps, but listen, you might even bleed, but listen, they killed Christ Jesus. I mean, they killed him. He was perfect. He didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. He didn't say anything wrong. He didn't think anything wrong. He never had a bad intention. Everything about him was perfect. And they killed him. Something to chew on. I'll put those links below this video, and I'll try and make more. I'll try to make more. I've got myself into a very heavy workload. My mother passed away just last month, and there's just been a lot going on. And it's okay. You don't have to leave comments. You know, I know we all hate it when people we love pass away, but that's part of life. And I know where she is. She's in paradise and she's fine. All right, and I'll see her again. So it's okay. It's all right. But it's busy, and I'll try and make another video as soon as I can. But just remember, don't let a day go by that you don't get into the Bible. All right, and study God's word, and eat it, make it a part of you. All right, and because when you live under God's law and when you live under His dominion, your life is exponentially better. You might take a couple lumps, but let me tell you, you're in better shape all the way around. All right. Well, God bless you, beloved.